first day of autumn. It really is my favorite time of year, and it was so phenomenally beautiful yesterday. What do we got going on there? Helicopters in flight. It was so beautiful yesterday on the High Line, but very crowded. So I'm going to come back and enjoy the nice weather while we still have it. I don't know if people have been following on X. There's been a huge dust up there. People can follow me at JG_CSTT. If you've been following me, you're going to know that this guy, Palmer Luckey, has become involved in what would typically be categorized, I guess, as a Twitter beef, right? He's beefing with me. It's a stupid idea, particularly for him. I mean, this is a guy who's worth, I guess, according to Forbes, $2.4 billion. That makes sense. We heard, well, at least I had known, a lot of people we found out didn't know about this guy. He's shocked to hear that not everybody knows who he is. But years ago, we heard that Mark Zuckerberg purchased Oculus Rift, which was a 3D virtual reality headset. They purchased that company and the intellectual property from Luckey for $2 billion, which was a huge number. It didn't make sense to me at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because I guess he must have patents associated with it, and somehow Zuckerberg felt that maybe they couldn't get around those patents. I don't know what they would be, because those types of head tracking virtual reality headsets, they've been around for a long time. Now, I'm not going to say he didn't innovate anything. He obviously knew a lot about video games, and I think he was very focused on the refresh rate of the screens those things use. You know? Micro OLED screens. You got to have a very high refresh rate for video games, and also the latency of when you move and how the environment reacts. If there's any delay and you're immersed in that virtual environment, it can create what's called simulation sickness, where your brain's internal equilibrium is thrown off by this artificial reality around you, that so many things are giving you cues that it's real, but a delay when you turn and everything. So he evolved that technology. I don't know that he invented anything. I haven't looked into it that closely. I actually have one. I think I got it on Kickstarter, as I recall. It was a pretty big deal among my friends in Hollywood, because it sort of came about just as 3D Hollywood was on the way down. People who have been watching for a while know my story, and I've shown this before. I had developed a stereoscopic camera. I was also very interested in, high quality stereoscopic viewing. This is Lee Stranahan's brother, Kenny, testing out a 3D VX2 prototype. Ultimately, we made the 3D VX3. This viewfinder shares some similarities with what Palmer Luckey developed. Now, I'm not going to say that this is as good or the same kind of thing. That viewfinder on the 3D camera did allow you to see what you were photographing in 3D in real time. People love that about the 3D VX. I got to shoot with Haskell Wexler, Academy Award-winning cinematographer. He really loved it. I found that cinematographers who are confident in their capabilities and not intimidated by somebody younger with new technology that they didn't understand, like Haskell Wexler, he wanted to work with me, and he liked it and was intrigued by it. That guy Wally Pfister, who I've spoken about before, he falls into a different category of sort of jerks who just didn't want somebody on set who knew something about the camera that they didn't know. They felt uncomfortable. Anyway, I don't want to get too into that. The point is, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. This guy didn't invent some staggering new thing that nobody had ever seen. It was sort of an evolution of an existing technology that, in my opinion, a lot of people were not that interested in, because there's certain things about that technology that they still haven't overcome. Even now, Apple has their Pro, Vision Pro, which I don't know. I'm sure he has opinions about that. He's certainly more dialed in on this type of technology than I am. And his latest venture, Anduril, is using those types of headsets, integrating them with different technologies, targeting, tracking. We saw that article yesterday where it said that Microsoft is getting into bed with him to do what? I don't remember, but have soldiers look at things on the battlefield and have an augmented reality, virtual reality. There's applications for it for sure, but as an entertainment device, I think most people object to certain fundamental things about it. The sensory deprivation of being inside there and not being able to see what's around you, for certain people, is very unsettling, and there's just no way around that I can think of, and he hasn't thought of it either. And then the other thing is, it's still a lot of hardware in the front of your face, and if you're going to use it for hours and hours, I mean, a lot of people sit on their computer or are using an iPad in their job or interfacing with some sort of electronic device. If you're going to wear that for hours at a time, I've heard a lot of people on YouTube even talking about the Apple thing, saying that the weight of it can be uncomfortable. I remember when it came out, I was going to buy it. A friend of mine from the world of 3D sold his company to Apple and became pretty high-level involvement in creating that thing, software for it and all that. And I was talking to him about putting some movies that I had shot on there. And I just had such a miserable time trying to purchase it from Apple, encountering all kinds of rudeness and DEI stuff that was so different than any other purchasing experience I ever had with Apple or any company for that matter, that I decided I hate that product and I'm not buying it. And I just don't think that anybody wants that kind of wearable, immersive, what do they call it, facial computing, spatial computing. I think until it's this big and light, no one's going to want it. And we're actually close to that. There are some, Meta has Ray-Ban glasses that have certain functions, certainly taking videos and I think giving you text messages and stuff. That product makes a lot more sense to me because it's making it completely unobtrusive and having a little bit of capability. If you could just get your text messages on there and give it voice commands to make phone calls and stuff, I think more people would want that. And then that will eventually evolve and you'll have a whole, TV screen in there or whatever. But my point is, it was weird to me that he got that much money for it, but who knows? Mark Zuckerberg can do whatever the hell he wants. And so not everybody knows who this guy Palmer Luckey is. He thinks they do. And so I've been looking into him a bit since this whole dust-up occurred. And as I said, he created this company, Oculus, created the headset. And this is crazy. He made a suicide headset. He built this prototype with, charges that if you lose in the video game, this thing kills you. I'm not joking. When I first heard about this, I thought he was joking, but I mean, apparently it is a functional prototype. It's inspired by some kind of like manga or anime, like a comic book or a movie or something, where that's what it's about. These guys are playing this video game where you're in virtual reality, and if you die in the game, the headset kills you. And he's written that whole blog about how no one's going to really feel the intensity of the immersive environment unless the stakes are high. And I think it actually does work, because he's got some comment in there about how he hasn't had the courage himself to try it on. I don't think that's courage. That's sort of stupid. Why would you want a suicide headset? I hope even saying that word doesn't get me kicked off of YouTube. We're living in an oppressive environment here in the United States in 2024 where certain words, just talking about the factual existence of a stupid invention from a person who I think is a psychopath. That's my opinion. Remember, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not qualified to make any kind of psychiatric evaluation of anyone. If I say Palmer Luckey is a psychopath, that's obviously my opinion, hyperbolic speech, just based on my observations of public domain evidence, like the fact that the guy is designing a suicide headset. I can't imagine who would want that, but it makes me think the guy is crazy, and that he's likely to do a lot of things that I certainly wouldn't do, and maybe other people wouldn't do. So I started looking into him a bit more because, people saw he was responding to me. The funny thing is, he started responding like 5-6 days ago, and I didn't notice. I'm not looking at every single comment on X there. It's, try to keep up and interact with people who are interested in crowdsource the truth. and try to remind people that the only thing I ever tell people to do is to become sponsors on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Nothing I say is a call to action. Nobody should contact people or call them up or bother them. Even if you see me doing that, nothing I ever say is a call to action other than asking people to sponsor the show, because that keeps Crowdsource the Truth independent. And you know, if you are the sponsor, your interests are the interests that I'm serving. This is why I don't want a giant singular corporate sponsor, because imagine if Anduril sponsored Crowdsource the Truth for $1 million a year, and then I found information in the public domain that caused me to believe that their potentially killer drone technology was used during the Donald Trump assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm not saying that it was. I'm saying that I've seen evidence in the public domain that causes me to believe that it was. Hasn't been proven yet. A lot of people have a difficulty discerning the difference between evidence and proof. Palmer Luckey might be one of those people. He seems like a smart guy, but I actually think he's an idiot. Let's take a look. Here he is at some event, I forget the name of it, but he's talking about military drone technology. Let's give a listen.
Drones. How many drone designs? I mean, that seems like the most interesting place to play.
We've got 6 aerial vehicles that we've announced, and then we've got another half dozen that have not been announced. They're all purpose-built for specific use cases. Some of them are protecting military bases from incoming drone threats right now. So, I mean, overseas, in combat zones right now. Some of them are doing it here in the United States. We have other drones that are providing targeting for long-range precision fire systems, so you don't have to move. Like right now, the way that you put a laser on a target, a lot of time you have a JTAC, you have a guy who literally has to get close to them, point a laser at them, and then he's the one guiding it. The problem is the enemies that we have all have sensors that detect that laser,
Yep.
and the second you start lasing, they're gonna try to kill you. If you can replace that job with a drone, you can take a person out of harm's way that had a 50-50 shot of coming back from any real conflict.
Amazing.
Sounds good, right? 50-50 shot, he's taking people out of danger, but what is he talking about? Military drones, targeting things. He says they have 6, and 6 that are unannounced. Now, I think I've seen 3 on their website. We've got the Anvil, we've got the Ghost, we've got the Anvil M. I think those are the only 3 that I've seen. So there's 3 others that I'm not aware of. Doesn't mean the public isn't. And then there's 6 that he says that are unannounced. Plus, he's not under oath. He's just at some conference there, a TED Talk or something similar to that. He doesn't have to tell you the truth. In fact, I would even say he might deliberately lie so that competitors or military adversaries might not know. They could have 2 dozen. He also said, didn't he say they were purpose-built? They could have custom ones that they make. But the point is, when you look up the patent for their operating system, the Lattice OS, which is a battlefield operating system, they say that all the time. When they say Microsoft is getting into bed with Palmer Luckey, they're saying that the Microsoft headset, as I have understood, I could be wrong, we should check these things, but I understood that it was saying that the Microsoft headset is getting integrated into that Lattice OS. In other words, like if you have a Macintosh computer from Apple and Microsoft makes a, I forget what they call their headset, but that works with Windows, right? And if somebody decided, hey, I want to use that Microsoft headset with a Mac computer, they would create some program, some driver software, something, where that Microsoft hardware can talk to and integrate itself with the hardware and software from the other system. That's the point of an operating system, is to get hardware and software to work together. And it's my understanding that that's what those guys are doing. They have said from the beginning that they wanted to make a Silicon Valley startup type company take that sort of approach to a military defense contractor. And that's what they're doing. So, oh, I forgot to, darn it. He even said they're having, guys with remote lasers and shooting things. I don't know, they could make a drone that could fire. I could believe that. A lot of people just sort of jumped to that. And I object to these sort of guess-based approaches. There are certain people who see something and they say, oh, it looks like a bird. It's like, well, okay. Thanks, but I don't really care about opinion-based guesses that are not scientific, because anybody can say that. And of course, this whole matter came about. I'm pretty sure Palmer Luckey misunderstood what I said. I don't believe that I said that he was personally involved in the assassination. I'd like him to find that statement if it exists. I don't recall saying that. If that was said or implied, I didn't think that, certainly not before all this. Now that he's acting so strangely, my opinion might be changing. But he said basically that, well, Jason is making up nonsense. That is not true. I had quite a lot of reason to believe that Anduril drones would have been used there. Now, people who aren't following on X might not have heard this phone call. Let's give a listen to this. This is me calling up a guy named Rafael Eduardo Castro II. And I didn't, get his phone number from QAnon. I didn't just say, oh, you know what, I think this active Air Force drone technician probably did it. I filed a right to know request under Pennsylvania's Right to Know Act with the Beaver County District Attorney's Office, seeking information from police records, official evidence from the July 13th assassination attempt against Donald Trump. And as everybody who's watching Crowdsource the Truth has got to be aware by now, they seem to have made some sort of technical error by sending me unredacted files that gave me everybody's name, including this guy. He was listed on the personnel sheet as the counter UAS operator. So I called him, and this is what he said. Eduardo, is that you? Can you hear me? Is that Eduardo?
Who's speaking?
It's Jason. How are you, man?
I'm sorry, it's who?
It's Jason. I wanted to ask you about the drone you were flying in Butler, Pennsylvania. Was it an Anduril counter UAS drone? And why has your name been hidden?
Oh, I'm sorry, who do you work for?
I don't work for anybody. This is Jason. I work for myself. You were the drone operator, the counter UAS drone operator, right? Is this Special Agent Eduardo Castro?
Who do you work for? And how did you get this number?
Eduardo Castro? I don't work for anyone. I have a show called Crowdsource the Truth. You were the drone operator during the Donald Trump assassination attempt, right? What was the function of the drone you were flying?
Sir, there's a government phone number for official business only. Do not call this number again.
Strange response, right? Sorry if that was a bit quiet. It's tough to do these mixed presentations while walking around. But, wasn't that his opportunity to say, operate a drone during the assassination attempt? No, I wasn't doing that. What the hell are you talking about? He didn't say that. He took umbrage at the fact that I was calling him on his secret agent government phone.
Então, mas será que ali não é
I made two mistakes in that call. I called him Eduardo because he was listed on the personnel sheet as Eduardo, and I called it Anduril, but it's Anduril is the name of the company. So sorry for that error. And then a couple days later, so I looked him up on LinkedIn, and I saw that, I had looked him up before I called him and had seen that his full name was Rafael Eduardo Castro II. That's a pretty common, three names, South American people. My ex-wife had a long list of names, particularly after we got married. I kind of like that. But I don't know. I guess he doesn't know if he goes by Rafael or Eduardo or whatever. But then I called him back. I found his home phone number because I was respecting his wishes. He told me not to call that phone. He didn't tell me not to call him again. When people tell you not to call them and then you call them, that's harassment. See, a lot of people don't adhere to that. There's a lot of people that I tell to leave me alone and not contact me, and they don't listen to me. So when someone says, don't call me again, I listen. But he just told me not to call the secret agent phone. So I called him at home or on his cell phone a couple days later to follow up and give him another opportunity to tell me, I don't know who you are or what you're talking about, but I don't fly drones. I wasn't in Butler, Pennsylvania. I don't know anything about Anduril. Stop bothering me. He didn't say that. Let's listen.
Hello?
Raf.
Hello?
Raphael?
Yep.
Listen, man, you got a
Yes?
problem. You have a problem, dude. You're blowing up on Twitter. Remember that phone number you told me not to call you on the other day? People want to know what you were doing with the drone in Butler. They think you were involved in the assassination. What was going on with that drone you were flying? I mean, again, perfect opportunity to say, listen, man, I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't flying any drone. I wasn't involved in any assassination. Oh, look, this guy has a bird. How do you prevent the bird from flying away? Oh, it's a woman. Anyway, bird. Point is, doesn't it seem like somebody on the other end of the phone could have or should have said, I don't know what you're talking about with the assassination and all this drone business? He just seems to be getting nervous that I'm asking him about it. And I'm finding sort of similar behavior from Palmer Luckey. See, the weird thing is he's worth $2.4 billion. This guy's got a wife, he's got kids, he's got a $14 billion company. Oh, and he's not the CEO. I need to be very precise here. I might have said that he was the CEO. I believe I have, because I was confused. He's listed above the CEO on their website, and he is the founder, or one of the 3 co-founders. The CEO is another guy, one of the co-founders. But I don't know, he's sort of the front man in certain ways. It's a strange non-CEO. He's not the CTO either, but he does seem very technology focused, or at least that's what we're told. He is the founder of Anduril. And so he thinks that I'm making up nonsense, which is false. I haven't made up anything. I never heard of his company until I found this guy. I meant to go through, I did do a brief study, really rather extensive research into this field of counter UAS technology. Because even though I was the CEO of a company called Cine, maybe like 10 years ago, that had nothing to do with military drone technology, and frankly, 10 years is a lifetime in that industry, so I'm out of the loop with drones. I have a DJI Mini, that's a consumer product. I am no longer a drone expert. I have maybe a better than average understanding of how they work and all that, but there's loads of technology in the world of drones that I'm not familiar with. So I set about doing some research of who offers this counter UAS technology, and there are maybe half a dozen or a dozen companies. Most of them are electronic disruption technology. Like there's this one that looks like a kind of a giant hockey puck that sits on top of your vehicle, your Humvee or your MRAP or whatever it is. And I guess it's projecting electromagnetic signal and interference to prevent the drone from receiving the signals that it needs to fly or to transmit back to its base station. That's one form of technology. There's another company that makes a thing that's kind of like an electromagnetic gun that you point at. I think it used microwave energy or something. Point it at the flying drone and it causes it to fail. It's quite easy to make multi-rotor drones fail. You just tip them over slightly and get them thrusting downward, and it just immediately becomes rock. There's another one. I meant to pull a video. I'm sorry I didn't, but the bullfrog, we've looked at that. That is a kinetic anti-UAS system in that it fires bullets at drones, but that is, sort of a remote operated turret, a robot operated gun that goes around. It sounded like Palmer Luckey was talking about something about that long-range targeting, whatever he was saying in that little conversation with that guy. But there actually was another company that was making an aircraft that is counter-UAS technology, but it was like shooting nets at the drones. It really seemed, frankly, not sophisticated compared to the Anduril technology, and that's what they claim, that their stuff is like super sophisticated, industry-leading counter-UAS technology. One of the primary features of the Anduril Anvil is that it can fly up to 100 miles per hour, which is really substantially faster. Love the Huskies. That's like the smartest kind of dog. In my experience, we had a Husky in Call of the Wild. But the thing can fly up to 100 miles an hour, and it smashes into enemy aircraft, drones. There's different categories, like category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that does the size, right? Like you start talking, and that's the other thing. There was a lot of counter-UAS technology that's like big. It's like a quarter of the size of a regular airplane or something. A Reaper drone, sure, it's an unmanned aircraft, but it's bigger than a person. It's not like a tiny little, when you're used to seeing a drone flying around over the concert or whatever. It's not like that. But that's the thing with these Anduril Anvil drones, they are pretty small. If you saw it and you hadn't heard all this conversation that we're having about it, you might just think it's a video drone or something like that. But it doesn't seem to be for that. It doesn't even necessarily transmit video that gets recorded. It seems to be for targeting. But Palmer Luckey told us that there's 6 that haven't even been announced. So why would they make 6 that do the exact same thing? Do they make a drone that can fire a bullet? I don't think you could very easily mount and most of the drone firing demos that I've seen on YouTube, first of all, most of them have been computer animated simulations of what the proposed technology would do, and that doesn't impress me. You could make the Terminator with computer animation. That doesn't mean you can actually do that. Is this a Jack Russell? I like those a lot too. Oh, looks like I give him a moment of privacy to do the business. And then other ones I've seen where they're mounting an existing gun on an existing drone. I think it's very difficult to make that a stable and reliable platform because neither of those two things are designed to work together. But you see, just like I took 2 Panasonic cameras, kludged them together with 2 Apple Mac Minis, 2 micro OLED displays from somebody's virtual reality headset before Palmer Luckey invented his. I disassembled, I'm trying to remember the name of that product. I don't remember the name, but when it came out, it was a breakthrough. That thing used the highest resolution micro OLED available at the time, could display HD. People were very impressed with the viewfinder from that 3D camera, including Haskell Wexler. He's Academy Award-winning cinematographer. Now, I wasn't trying to recreate a simulation of reality. This is new. We have a restaurant here. Or coffee? What is this? Yeah, it's a whole restaurant. Nobody's in there. Interesting. But anyway, so yeah, I wasn't making up nonsense. I didn't even talk about Anduril until we found this guy, Rafael Eduardo Castro. And when I said Raf, he didn't say, "Who are you looking for?" That was definitely him. He responds to Eduardo, he responds to Rafael. People seem to call him one or the other interchangeably, depending on, I don't know what. He didn't say no. Again, not proof, but that's some pretty strong evidence that causes me to think certain things. Haven't proven it in court. I don't know, if I was a FBI agent or a cop and I was trying to subpoena somebody or get a search warrant to go to his house. This is the type of evidence I would be developing to go to a judge and to have a hearing to obtain a warrant to arrest people like this. I can't do that because I'm not law enforcement. I'm not even a lawyer. Nothing I say is legal advice, and nobody should act on anything I say other than to sponsor the show. And people say, oh, Jason, you always say that. I need to be very clear. Nobody should misunderstand what I'm saying. Not even Palmer Luckey. I don't believe I said that he was personally involved, but the more strenuously he protests, the more his behavior causes me to believe that he might have been involved. Did he say, oh yeah, we got a special drone? This is what I was getting at. When I take different parts from Panasonic and Apple and whoever designed that 3D headset and I chop them up in the office building over there. We're actually very close to 21st Century 3D's old office. Let's go up there. Nah, it's not impressive. It's just an office building. You won't see anything. But the point is, when I kludge that all together, that's nowhere near as good as if Panasonic said, you know what? We're going to design that from the ground up. I think that's pretty easy for people to understand, that engineers at Panasonic could do a better job of designing a 3D camera than Jason, and that designing something from the ground up is better than kludging it together. So just like these guys who want to take a gun, that guy was coming right at me on the bike with a mask on. You want to take a gun manufactured by Heckler & Koch to go in your hand, or whoever, if it's a rifle. I've seen drones with rifles on them. Then you want to take a DJI drone that's designed to fly a camera. Camera does much different stuff than a gun. A camera just needs to be stabilized on a gimbal like this, where I can, move my hand all around and the camera stays relatively stable. The camera is not having a massive explosion and a violent ejection of a projectile that causes it to recoil and, unstabilize the platform. I was thinking about this. The second you hit the hammer on the igniter or whatever it's called at the back of a bullet and that explosion happens, if you don't have something stationary on the ground, like your hand, like we were talking about snipers, right? They get into the fact that your finger on the trigger, gun people will know what I'm talking about. I can never remember the term, but there's some finger action, maybe it's called, that somehow affects the accuracy of the shot. So my point is, if you've got something suspended from an aerial platform and then you fire it, bang, does it move somewhat from the infinitesimal time that the hammer hits the thing until it leaves the barrel of the gun? I suspect that it does. And I think if you're talking about millimeters to hit a target, it's a problem to have an aerial gun platform. Now, that's not to say that those problems couldn't be overcome with sophisticated engineering. In fact, I think they could. This looks like a pretty supercharged Charger right here.
Yeah, it's have to be pretty good, I feel like.
I think they could, but I think you'd have a much better bet designing an aerial gun platform from scratch, perhaps something that knows that happens and can counteract it with computer stuff, maybe, I don't know. Somebody could figure it out, but the notion that you could build a drone that is itself a gun, that maybe it can fire one shot, or one shot per 5 seconds or whatever, have some technology in there that can overcome the fact that this is not stationary on the ground and be accurate enough to be considered a gun platform. I don't know. Maybe they've designed that. Maybe. Maybe it's small. I could picture it. The wheels are already turning in my mind of how something like that would be designed, who I would go to speak to, which gun experts I would want to consult, which electronics and people who design gimbals and stabilization platforms. And I wonder if Mr. Tyler, Nelson Tyler, is he still alive? He'd be a good guy to talk to about how to create an aerial gun platform. He's the guy who invented the Tyler mount, and he was a helicopter gunner in Vietnam. The Tyler mount was based on the gun mount from a helicopter. But anyway, the point is, I haven't seen that. I don't know if that exists. Palmer Luckey has 6 that he hasn't shown us. But let's go into some more of the effort that I went to develop evidence and understand what the hell is going on there. So let's just look at some of these tweets here. So this is, remember I said, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have our next contestant on Who Wants to Get Motherfucking Sued. Palmer Luckey, come on down, because he said, you're making up nonsense. And then somebody tweets this, you are Jewish, about me. And I said, look at the despicable dregs who defend the unhinged billionaire baby, Palmer Luckey, who's about to get fired in disgrace from the second company he founded. He doesn't say, hey, I have nothing to do with that guy and I denounce indiscriminate Jewish hatred in social media. He's just saying, who exactly is going to fire me from my own company, retard? And I mean, I don't know. I'm razzing him a little bit. Obviously, I would imagine the board of directors or maybe that CEO could say, hey man, you're doing and saying a lot of things that are terrible. Why don't you step down? I don't know. But him leaving that company is a definite possibility because he's an absolute jackass. So he tweets that. I thought that was reprehensible. And then I was just looking at some more responses, and somebody, this is sensible. I don't know who this Overtime is, but Overtime says it doesn't seem possible that a bird would be flying that fast, especially when it looks like one of them came off the ground, because when birds take off, that's when they're at their slowest. Their maximum speed is when they're soaring. And I said, yeah, see, that makes sense. I had asked Henrik, oh, wait a minute, sorry, there's another video I want to show everybody before we look at this. I had asked Henrik, people are going to remember, Henrik has an X account called 4D Forensic. People should follow Henrik. He's a super nice guy, extremely talented, brilliant 3D artist, and he created this model of the Butler County Fairgrounds, the Farm Show Fairgrounds. And I asked him, can you take a video from the Gigasync? I gave him the video of these 2 things flying that looked to me like drones, or certainly could be. Then I asked him if, based on the photogrammetric model that he created, would it be possible to calculate the speed of those objects? And he said absolutely it would, which I presumed it could be done. And look at what he did here. This is not making up nonsense and guessing. He took the video, he put it into Blender, he married it up with his very sophisticated and highly detailed 3D model, and he's tracking where these things are going, and then people should go to 4D Forensic. He also has an Odyssey channel, so people can go to odyssey.com/4D Forensic. That's free. It is free to subscribe to Odyssey, and you get the largest, on Crowdsource the Truth, you're going to get the largest library of Crowdsource the Truth content anywhere on the internet, even if you don't want to become a member and sponsor the show. But the point is, Hendrik put together this very comprehensive video study of what is going on with those flying things, and he determined that they're flying at between 40 and 80 miles per hour. So I then queried ChatGPT, and I said, hey, are there species of birds that would be present in Butler, PA in summertime that can fly between 40 and 80 miles per hour? And people can go read that detailed analysis, but it basically said no. ChatGPT went through this kind of eagle and this kind of condor, which, by the way, would be much bigger on camera than those things. And ChatGPT determined this analysis further supports your claim that the objects in question are not natural phenomena like birds, but are most likely advanced drones with capabilities that align more closely with Anduril's system than any other known counter-UAS technology. So that's what I was talking about. I was doing all that examination of alternate counter-UAS technologies with ChatGPT. The latest version, maybe you have to pay for this, I don't know, but ChatGPT, well, it's no longer the latest. They have a new beta one, but ChatGPT 4.0 allows it to go on the internet and search for things, and you can turn on or off this function called memory, where it's going to remember your previous conversations. Some people might hate it. I think it's fantastic for what I'm trying to do. So it remembered everything that I was telling it about all of this, It remembered all the counter-UAS stuff that we were looking at. It knows the speed that those counter-UAS aircraft fly at. It said one of the distinguishing features, Anduril tells you this, it's the fastest drone. I mean, other than like a DJI racing drone, which also looks different than that. And why would anybody be using that? If it was Crooks, who wasn't even there, the FBI hasn't said, oh yeah, somebody was, what is it called? The Astra, whatever that DJI thing's. There are drones that go super fast, but that's not what we were looking at. And also remember, that GigaSync video that I gave to Hendrik, it shows those drones flying in coordination with somebody walking on the roof. So there's a whole lot of business going on right around the time they start shooting at Trump. And I wonder if professional moron and putative psychopath Palmer Luckey has seen the infrared dot in the window of American Glass Research at exactly 6:11 and 33 seconds, because he seems concerned in that conversation about people having to laze a target for a long time and getting detected by all these enemy technologies that can detect laser rangefinders and laser targeting systems and stuff like that. Would one method of counteracting detection be to create something that can just boop, give a little blast? Because it's certainly more difficult to detect something that exists for 1/5 of a second than a constant laser beam, which is what Corey Mills told me is required to laze a target. He told me that over the phone. We had a conversation weeks ago where he didn't feel that it was an infrared thing in the window, or that it wasn't a, not that he didn't feel it was a laser in the window, he said that it wasn't painting a target on Trump. Maybe not in the traditional sense that he's aware of, but this could be technology that nobody has seen yet other than Palmer Luckey, Rafael Eduardo Castro, and other people. I'm not saying they have. I'm saying there's a hell of a lot of evidence that is now in the public domain, thanks to the Beaver County District Attorney, Crowdsource the Truth, and other people, that cause me to believe that Anduril was involved in this assassination attempt. And the incredibly bizarre behavior by Palmer Luckey is starting to make me think that he knew about it. Because I tell you, if I had even $1 billion, you would never see me. I would be on a yacht the size of like the Pacific Princess on my way to Charles's place in Malaysia, with Cullen landing on a Boeing AH-6I that I just bought him for his birthday, Lee in a lounge chair in the greenhouse enjoying the cannabis crop, and I wouldn't care what somebody like Jason Goodman had to say about me on Twitter. It's bizarre that Palmer Luckey would engage with me at all. And in fact, that evidence that he put into the public domain makes me think he's very concerned about what I'm saying. Now, the other thing is, remember, we have more evidence that maybe there was some automated thing in the trees. We had Vanessa Broussard, who in my estimation is an extremely sober, intelligent, experienced, very, very sharp journalist, an excellent witness, better than a normal witness because she's trained to observe things and make notes. And she was also giving us contemporaneous, let's listen to her. Remember, John Cullen made this video. Where were the snipers aiming after the shots rang?
Secret Service quickly erupted. You can see the snipers on the building behind the podium aiming at the trees. If you look to our left, there are trees in the distance, and that seems to be where the gunfire is coming from.
Vanessa said they're aiming at the trees. I wasn't there. John Cullen has a lot of expertise in guns and ballistics, and he found these bullet hits that created this trajectory going up to the trees. Now, he was surprised by that. Certainly a drone could be flying in the trees, Certainly an automated rifle platform could be hard mounted in the trees. Maybe a laser in the window gets detected by a drone in the air, sends a signal to a remote gun, and that shoots. I don't know. But there's not nonsense being made up. There's a lot of evidence that informs my opinion that Anduril drones were there. And Palmer Luckey's extremely crazy behavior around all this makes me think he knows something that he doesn't want to talk about. I called that stupid idiot earlier today because today is the day that I'm willing to bury the hatchet with that moron, despite the fact that he's been incredibly insulting, that he's endorsed Jewish hatred on social media. What does David Sachs think about that? What does J.D. Vance think about that? These were investors, I think, in Anduril. And by the way, when I said most people never heard of this company before, I'm not talking about people in the venture capital world. I'm not talking about people in the military-industrial complex. I'm saying that company isn't Ford. That company isn't Google. My mom never heard of it. The average person had no idea what the hell that thing was. And he's like, everybody knows about it. It's the most successful startup. And congratulations, asshole. I think, my opinion, pure opinion, based on public domain evidence, including public domain evidence that Palmer Luckey himself has released, I believe he was involved. And in fact, I think we now have enough evidence to question him in Congress. Thank you, Palmer Luckey. It's wonderful. So anyway, the message to him is if he doesn't want to call me back, and I left the message on his cell phone, I know it was him, the outgoing message is also psychopathic. This guy is such a narcissistic maniac in my estimation. Let's just look at him talk at that event. Doesn't he? I don't know. Anyway, the point is today is the day that he can call me back and we can have a conversation about this. If he doesn't want to do that, I will sue him. And the goal will be to depose him and get the answers to these questions. And he's going to say, you can't sue me for calling you. I don't even want to say it here on YouTube because I think I'll get banned, but this guy doesn't understand what I'm talking about. But just like the Emmys, he's going to be caused to understand. And look, I don't think I have the ability to overwhelm some billionaire with legal process. This guy could spend $50 million on lawyers and not flinch. But that's not what it's about. I'm not after money. I'm like Jonah in the belly of the whale, and I am causing indigestion. Go ask Adam Sharp, Palmer. Go ask Margaret Eskenayi. Go ask George's asshole brother. Have a nice Sunday. I'll see everybody tonight for Sunday with Charles. Don't forget to become a sponsor on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. That's the most economical way for everybody. It's only $3 a month. It's like nothing. Even a billionaire could afford it. Palmer, why don't you sponsor the show? It's $3 a month plus a 58-cent fee for Odyssey. You can watch last night's episode of Who Wants to Get Motherfucking Sued. It's not about you. That's going to be next week. Last night was all about the Beaver County District Attorney's Office. We've still got great information coming from them. People can also sponsor on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a wonderful Sunday. Happy autumn. It's a beautiful